Today, we're visiting a truly bizarre university. Keep your eyes wide open and don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
Look at these people. One of them is not a student. Can you figure out who it is? This lady in black is a supernatural creature. Look at the mirror. Both she and her reflection are facing you. It's not possible in the real world. Students at this university aren't exactly known for their honesty. Look, it's midterms, and someone is cheating during an exam. Can you help the professor find this dishonest student? It's this guy. He has answers written on his arm. Thanks to your help, the professor has caught the cheating student, but she's a kind-hearted woman and gives the guy another chance. He needs to solve this riddle to pass the exam. Would you maybe like to help the poor student you've exposed? Keep in mind that this riddle has challenged many intelligent minds, and for good reason. The missing number in the third circle is 225. The numbers in these circles seem to be completely random at first glance. But let's perform some basic arithmetic operations, addition, subtraction, and multiplication, and try to figure out the pattern. We need to follow these steps. Look at the first circle and pair the opposites. The first pair gives us 11. As for the second pair, we need to calculate the difference between the numbers. It's 9. The next step should be finding the difference between the two results and squaring this number. We get 4. Let's do the same for the second circle to make sure that this is a working scheme. And now, let's find the missing number. So, 225 is the answer. The exams are over, and students are celebrating. But the party is kinda shady. Look around. Someone who doesn't belong to this college has sneaked inside. Can you spot the intruder? Look at this young lady. Her feet don't seem to be touching the ground. She must be a ghost. During the holidays, supernatural beings occupied the college, and now they're haunting the students. Even worse, someone has bitten your friend. Which of these people is a vampire? This young man has a t-shirt that looks as if it has some bloodstains on it. But that's just a print. This woman has a whole garlic knob hanging as a necklace on her chest, so she's not a vampire. But look at the man who's drinking some red liquid. I bet it's not fruit juice. He's actually the one we should be aware of. Imagine coming back to your dorm and finding out that your roommate is missing. Plus, everything around you looks kinda suspicious. Strange sounds, weird smells. Is your roommate hiding some terrible secret? Let's look at the sky. See that full moon? Now, pay attention to the walls and the floor of your room. You can notice scratch marks and chunks of fur here and there. That's the answer. Your roommate is a werewolf. After figuring out your roommate's secret, you realize you need to clear your head. You go to a morning pool party. People are swimming, playing around, and having fun. But one of the guests is a mermaid. Can you figure out who it is? This girl just pretends to be a mermaid. She even has matching makeup. This guy is wearing special gloves with membranes between the fingers. The mermaid is actually this girl who's staying as far away from the swimming pool as possible. She's even wearing a raincoat, all because if even a small water droplet touches her skin, she will get her tail. It's time to go back to school, only to find out that one of your professors is possessed. Who is that? This man has red eyes and messy hair, but that's most likely because he's sleep deprived. This woman is unnaturally pale, but she's suffering from food poisoning. Look at that piece of pizza next to her. It sure doesn't look fresh. At the same time, the guy on the right has two shadows instead of one. He's definitely possessed. Okay, now let's move on to something less supernatural, but no less tricky. Imagine having to empty a jar of milk and a jar of water into a bowl. But of course, there are several conditions. You must be able to see the border between the milk and the water. You must be able to separate the milk from the water. And finally, you aren't allowed to use any kinds of dividers to keep these two liquids apart. How can you do it? All you need to do is to pour the water into the bowl first and freeze it. Now all that's left to do is to add the milk. In the city where people are keen on brain-teasers and riddles, 4% of people don't list their phone numbers. So if we select 40 random people from the phone directory, how many of them will have unlisted numbers? The answer is 0%. You see, if the numbers of these 40 people are in the phone directory, they're already listed by default. David invited 7 friends to his birthday party. They brought a beautiful big cake, but they couldn't eat it unless it was divided into 8 equal pieces with just 3 cuts. Luckily, they managed to do this and could enjoy the treat. Would you be able to do the same? To fulfill this task correctly, you need to follow the next steps. First of all, cut the cake across the diameter through the middle point. After that, cut the cake horizontally. Now you already have 4 equal pieces. And finally, cut the cake across the diameter, perpendicular to the first cut. There you go, 8 equal pieces and just 3 cuts. Now, look at the poor guy. One of his friends has pulled a paint bucket prank on him. Look at the rest of the people attentively and try to figure out who it was. It was definitely Luke. Look at his pants. There are paint stains there. Now, look at these girls. They're in a dark basement tied with ropes. Who is going to be the first to escape? Most likely, it'll be the first girl. She's got long, beautiful nails. She's bound to have a file to look after them. It can help her cut through the rope. There's been a robbery on the train, and one of these people is hiding the stolen goods. Who can it be? It's this woman. She only pretends to be pregnant. Her belly has a bizarre shape. It's suspiciously square. The police had been looking for Kyle for 2 days. The guy went hiking and never came back. Finally, he was found. Someone had hit him on the head and left him lying in the bushes. Kyle only managed to say, "friend," and lost consciousness. The police officers had 3 suspects, all of them Kyle's friends. Zachary said he spent these last days at work getting ready for a conference. Jeremy told the detectives he'd sprained his ankle and had been in bed for 4 days. And Billy explained that he'd been to New York. The man even showed the police officers his boarding pass. Who's responsible for the accident with Kyle? Billy showed the police just one boarding pass from Chicago to New York. Then how did he get back from New York? His story sounds fishy. Jordan was very late for a job interview, but when he drove up to the office building, he found out there were no free parking spaces. He decided to leave his car a bit farther from the entrance. But even though there were several other vehicles in that area, parking was prohibited there. Luckily, Jordan came up with an idea and didn't get fined. What did he do? He took a parking ticket from another car and put it on his windshield. It looked as if he had already been fined.
Luna and her dog Leo vlog about their trips in a van.
Yay.
Their bags are packed and they're ready for a new adventure. Can you spot anything odd in this picture? This van has one extra wheel.
Oh.
Luna fixes her vehicle and they hit the road. Their first destination is the local waterfall, which is a favorite tourist spot. But unfortunately, the map is pretty twisted. Can you help Luna figure out the right path? They should go this way. Luna and Leo arrive at the waterfall and go swimming. Can you spot anything weird here? Take a look at this rock. It has a built-in electrical outlet. The local urban legend says that a cabin near the waterfall is haunted. Luna decides to shoot a vlog. Can you spot any ghosts in this video? The apple is moving on its own. Spooky! What about the basement? Can you find any ghosts? Hello! Luna sets up camp and puts a foil-wrapped pizza on the fire to warm it up. She leaves the camp for a moment to use the bathroom. Then she returns and finds out that the pizza is missing.
Oh my God.
Luna interrogates 3 tourists nearby. Claire says, "I didn't touch your pizza, lady. I'm cheese intolerant." Mike says, "I caught a lot of fish today, so I don't need to steal food." And Vivian says, "I didn't approach your camp, but I saw some suspicious guys sneaking around your fire." Who's lying? Take a look at the footprints left around the camp. These clearly belong to Leo, and these ones to Luna. But there's another pair of human boot prints identical to those that Vivian left on her own camp. Busted!
Oh.
In the evening, Luna parks her van in a desert. She takes out her telescope to observe the stars. Can you find the correct shadow? Only the third shadow matches this telescope perfectly.
Yes!
The next morning, Luna goes for a walk. Oh no! She accidentally tore her backpack. She needs to buy a new one. Luna goes to the nearest town on the way and stops at the local shopping district. Luna is here for the first time, so she doesn't know which store to choose. The first building says, "The best backpacks in the country." The sign on the second building says, "The best backpacks on the continent." And the third building is advertising the best backpacks in the universe. Then, Luna spots a small store at the end of the street. She chooses it without hesitation. What's written on this building? Any ideas? The best backpacks on this street. After shopping, Luna parks her van on a beach. She sees a group of friends hanging out on the shore. But it's not that simple. One of these guys is a werewolf. Can you guess who? Take a look at this dog. Wearing glasses and reading a book is very suspicious behavior for a regular dog, isn't it? That's because it's a transformed werewolf. Suddenly, the wind carries away Luna's hat. She runs after it and faces a strange old guy. He says, "I'll give you back your hat if you manage to find its shadow." Can you help Luna? The fourth shadow is the correct one.
Yes!
Luna and Leo go to the beach cafe. Luna takes a look at the customers and spots a married person right away.
Oh.
What about you? This lady is the only one with a wedding ring.
Oh.
Suddenly, Luna sees Arthur. He's a famous actor. She grabs her camera and takes just one short video of Arthur before her battery runs out of power. She posted this picture later that day, and it went viral. Can you guess why? Arthur is sneaking a golden bracelet from the arm of the local waitress. This picture is so exclusive because it shows a celebrity committing a crime. Oh no! Our next stop is the yoga festival. Luna puts on an entrance bracelet in the lobby and enters the space. After a while, she meets these three people.
Hello.
Each claims to be a yoga teacher. Only one of them is telling the truth. Can you spot the imposters? Take a look at the second guy. There's a warning poster with his portrait hanging on a wall. So, he's a wanted criminal pretending to be a teacher. The first guy doesn't wear an entrance bracelet, so he probably entered the event illegally. Therefore, the first and the second guys are imposters, and the third lady is a real yoga teacher. Luna fastens Leo's leash to the fence and goes to the bathroom. After that, she returns to pick him up, but Leo is gone.
What?
Someone unfastened the collar and allowed him to escape. Luna questions three people standing nearby. Mia says, "I heard your dog barking while I was at the massage parlor. It annoyed me so much that I put on my headphones." Jake says, "I was walking my own dog and I think I saw your Leo running down that hill." And Leah says, "Oh, I would never do something so mean. It's against my principles." Who's lying? Take a look at Jake's dog. It's wearing a collar with Leo's name on it. It's very unlikely that his dog has the same name and is wearing the exact same collar. Jake stole Leo's collar and put it on his own dog. That's why Leo had the opportunity to escape. Oh no! Luna is running across the field looking for Leo. Can you help her? Take a look at this bush. This tail looks familiar. Luna finds Leo. It's getting dark, so the guys hit the road. Suddenly, Luna spots 3 hitchhikers at a gas station. Only one of them is safe to travel with. Can you guess who? The first lady looks pretty innocent, but take a closer look. She's using a USB connector in her navel to charge her phone. She must be a robot. No, thank you. Next, the second guy has a vampire bite on his arm. He'll probably turn into a vampire soon. Luna should pick the third lady.
Hello.
Luna takes the third passenger on board. Her name is Amy, and she's a travel blogger too. She tells about a secret abandoned town 10 minutes away from their current location. They decide to go investigate this spot together. Can you find anything odd in this area? The stop sign is spelled as S-P-O-T.
Oh.
Leo gets lost again. Luna is looking for him all over the town and eventually comes across a creepy cabin. An old witch opens the door and says,
I have your dog, but I'll only give it to you if you solve my riddle.
The witch puts a big acute triangle on the table.
You can make 7 cuts to make this triangle disappear. Every piece you cut off that is an acute triangle will disappear. But if a triangle has an angle that is right or obtuse, the piece will stay. Once again, you have 7 cuts and you have to make the whole triangle disappear. Not a single smallest piece can be left.
How can Luna do that and rescue Leo? Whenever you make a cut, it will either produce 2 right angles of an acute and obtuse angle. Luna seems to be doomed, but then she looks at the pizza the witch hasn't finished. When you cut it into more than 4 pieces, all angles are acute. Although we're dealing with a triangle, the principle is the same. Luna can first make a pentagon out of this initial triangle by making 2 cuts. Then just cut the pentagon into 5 pieces, using the 5 remaining cuts. Yay! It's time for a new adventure! Luna and Leo take these 2 pictures before leaving the haunted town for good. Can you spot 5 differences between these photos? Here they are. Luna's brother Luke is working on the other side of the world in New Zealand. Luna misses him very much, so she asked him to take a selfie and immediately send it to her. Luke sends this picture. Luna begins to suspect that he's hiding something from her. Why? The time on her phone is 9 p.m., and the time on the clock behind Luke is the same. It's impossible. They're in different time zones, remember? Sir Lionel was a very rich man with many servants working in his mansion. One day, as he was about to go on a business trip, his night watchman warned him not to board his flight.
I had a dream last night that something bad will happen on that plane.
Sir Lionel got annoyed at first, but since he was also a bit superstitious himself, he decided not to take the flight. Later that day, as he was watching the news, he saw that his plane did get lost on a deserted island.
Uh-oh.
He first thanked his employee and then fired him. Why?
Uh-oh.
Because as a night watchman, he's not supposed to be sleeping on the job. Eduardo was walking to his home late at night when he suddenly heard an evil laugh and was magically transported to a peculiar reality show as a contestant. The evil presenter showed him 3 doors. Behind the first door, there was a room filled with venomous spiders. The second door opened to a chamber containing toxic gas. The third door revealed a space with the floor covered in sharp shards of glass. In which room will he have a better chance to survive? He should pick the room with the floor covered in shards of glass. See? He has his boots on. Those can protect him from getting hurt. Late at night, Detective Forsyth was patrolling a quiet neighborhood when he heard a scream coming from one of the houses. Rushing to the scene, he found a group of friends gathered, and one of them, Manny, claimed he had just seen a ghost in the backyard. Forsyth questioned each friend to determine the truth. Lola said she had been reading a book in the living room. Joyce claimed she had been cooking in the kitchen. Emily mentioned she had been taking a nap in the bedroom. And Manny, the one who saw the ghost, insisted he had been gardening in the backyard. Detective Forsyth quickly identified the liar. Who was it and why? It was Manny.
Uh-oh.
His claim of gardening in the backyard was false because it was late at night. And if you take a closer look, there are no garden lights to illuminate the area. So, no one would be gardening in the dark. You are listening to your favorite radio program, I'm a Survivor, in which one of the listeners who participates in the weekly questions gets a chance to win $5,000. This week, you finally decided to try your chance. So, you call the program and the host gives you your question. In which situation do you have more chances to survive? If you're falling from a 10-story building, or if you find yourself surrounded by a swarm of bees. Can you win the $5,000? The bees buzzing around you might not be aggressive and might not cause you any harm. But when you're falling from that kind of height, unless you're Spider-Man or something, Professor Orion was an eccentric scientist who had a collection of enchanted doors in his laboratory. Each door led to a different dimension. He wanted to invite his friend, Beth, to his laboratory, but first, he needed to make sure she was worthy of exploring the realms beyond with him. So, he asked her this riddle. I fly without wings, I cry without eyes. Wherever I go, darkness follows me. What am I? Do you know the answer? The correct answer is cloud. Jason was about to graduate, but his fate was going to be determined by whether or not he could pass his algebra test. When he got his exam paper, this was the only question his professor asked. If it takes 30 men 30 minutes to dig 30 holes, how many minutes does it take one man to dig one hole? Can you help Jason graduate? It takes one man 30 minutes to dig one hole. Rose bought an old mirror from the antique store. But when she brought it home, the mirror pulled her inside and transported her into a magical castle with no escape. After checking every room to find an exit, Rose discovered 3 doors in the dungeon that could help her go back home. However, behind the first door, there was a raging fire. Behind the second door, there were thousands of venomous scorpions. And behind the third door, there was a pitch-dark maze filled with underground holes one could easily fall into. Which door should Rose choose? She should choose the third door. See the wood branches on the floor? She can take one and turn it into a torch and go through the maze. This way she can see the holes and avoid them. In the town of Puzzleville, Master Albert held an annual event known as the Night of Riddles. Every year, when the clock struck midnight, he asked the crowd one particular riddle, and the one who could answer it correctly would be crowned the Riddler's Apprentice. This year, he asked, "What is the one question you cannot truthfully answer yes to?" Can you answer it and win that title? The answer is, are you asleep yet? As Nicole was driving across a road at night, her phone's battery ran out. Unfortunately, she forgot to take her charger with her and there was nowhere she could get a new one. So she got lost without being able to use the Maps app. The road in front of her split up into 3 smaller roads, and there was a sign at each of them. The first sign said, "Toxic swamp ahead." The second sign said, "Werewolves ahead." And the third one said, "Active volcano ahead." Which one should she pick? It might be a cloudy night, but you can still catch a glimpse of the moon, which is not full. So she should pick the second road, since werewolves won't be there during this time of the month at least. In the futuristic city of Cyber Harbor, people communicate through holographic messages. Xander received a hologram from an anonymous sender with a cryptic riddle. Only if he could answer the riddle correctly that the sender's identity would be revealed to him. What is always in front of you but can't be seen? Can you help Xander discover the true identity of the sender? The answer is the future. Ernest and William are 2 logicians. They both pick a whole number from 1 to 30 inclusive. The following conversation occurs between them. Ernest: "Is your number double mine?" William: "I don't know. Is your number double mine?" Ernest: "I don't know. Is your number half mine?" William: "I don't know. Is your number half mine?" Ernest: "I don't know." William: "I know your number." Considering all the statements are true, what is the number Ernest picked, and how did William know? The correct answer is 4. From their first exchange, we know that William's number is even. Otherwise, he would have known that it couldn't be the double of a number. From the second exchange, we know that Ernest's number is a multiple of 4. Otherwise, he would know that it couldn't be the double of an even number. From the third exchange, we know that William's number is 14 or less. Otherwise, he would know that it couldn't be half of the largest possible multiple of 4. From the fourth exchange, we know that Ernest's number must be 4. Otherwise, if it were 8 or more, he would know it couldn't be half of a number that's 14 or less. And the only possible multiple of 4 that's less than 8 is 4. Andy and Bernie were trapped on an island, surrounded by swift currents. Luckily, they heard the thrum of a helicopter, but before it passed them by, they needed to attract the pilot's attention to save themselves. They had to use mirrors or flashlights. Just as they were losing hope, Bernie had a brilliant idea. Soon after, the helicopter spotted them and rescued them. How did Bernie do it? Look at all the tropical, large, colorful leaves and flowers around. He used them to create a makeshift SOS sign on the ground. Take a look at this image for a second. Which prisoner do you think is rich? Let's see. It can't be the first guy since his food is partially rotten. It looks like the other inmates don't really like him, and he doesn't have a lot of power inside the prison. The second guy, while he looks super wealthy, his jewelry is actually fake. This leaves us with the last guy, and bingo! It's him! Look, he's got a laptop under his plate and a phone under his arm. He's the richest for sure. Susie was invited to take part in a pop-up riddle show. She needed to answer one question correctly to win $1,000. She was extremely nervous when the game show host asked her this question.
How many numbers are on a clock?
Can you help Susie figure out this one? The answer looks obvious, but it's not. You need to do some math. The correct answer is 15. It doesn't work if you simply stare at the clock and say there are 12 numbers. You see, the numbers 10, 11, and 12 are made up of smaller numerical numbers, so the correct way to count it would be in a clockwise fashion. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0, 1, and 1. Phew! A local thief was running around playing tricks on some neighborhood stores. On a Saturday morning, he walked inside Mrs. Buchanan's shop and stole a $100 bill from the counter when she wasn't looking. He grabbed a shopping cart and filled it with $70 worth of goods. He paid for everything with the $100 bill he had stolen and even got $30 back as change. How much money did the store owner lose in all of this? The shop owner just lost $100. I know it sounds too simple, but here's the deal. In total, the store owner lost $70 worth of merchandise, plus the $30 she gave as change. So yes, she lost $100. Maya was roaming through the multiverses when she ran into a gatekeeper guarding a green door. She said she needed to go through the door in order to access her original timeline. But the gatekeeper would only let through those who answered his riddle. He told her that some things can go through the green door while others cannot, and she needed to figure out what all of the things had in common. And then he tells her, "You can come through the door with a carton of eggs, but not with a box of donuts. You can pass through it with a gallon of skim milk, but not a quart of it. You can bring with you some bamboo, but not jade, orchids, philodendron, or ivy. Sadly, you can't come through with dogs and cats unless they're still puppies and kittens." Can you help Maya figure out the pattern in common with all of these things? Well, the key to solving this riddle can be found in all 4 of the words that make up the phrase green glass door, aka double letters. If something is spelled with double letters, it can go through the green glass door. If there are no double letters in its name, then it can't. Mark went to the farmer's market to do his weekly grocery shopping. He stopped by the egg stand, and the owner was feeling chatty, so he challenged Mark to guess the answer to a riddle. He told Mark,
"If I had 4 eggs and a thief gave me 3, and my rooster laid 5 more, how many eggs do I have?"
Can you help Mark figure out the answer here? I'll get one thing out of the way. It's not a simple math problem. It doesn't work if you just add everything up. But here's the first problem. Roosters don't lay eggs, so those eggs are out of the equation. And then if you read correctly, the man said, if I had 4 eggs, which means that he had 0 eggs to begin with. So the correct answer is 3. The 3 eggs that the thief gave him. 4 prisoners from a high-security prison were taken to a deserted beach to do some community service. The warden wanted to have some fun, so he lined them up in a single-file line and separated prisoner A from the other 3 with the help of a brick wall. He gave each prisoner a hat, either black or white, without telling them which color they each got. In total, there were 2 black hats and 2 white hats. He told them that all prisoners would be sentenced to prison for life, except they could guess correctly which color of hat they had in under 10 minutes. The prisoners weren't allowed to confer with each other, and they weren't allowed to move around or change positions. They got super nervous, of course, but they had no other option than to play the game. Luckily, just before the clock struck 10 minutes, one of the prisoners guessed correctly their hat color. Can you guess which prisoner it was? P.S. There is only one correct answer. If you guessed prisoner C, then you got it right. Let's see why. This riddle can only be solved through a process of elimination, and 2 of the prisoners, prisoners A and B, can be eliminated right off the bat. That's because neither one of them can see any of the other prisoners, so neither possesses any information with which to make a more certain guess. That just leaves us prisoners C and D. When prisoner D remains silent and doesn't take a guess, prisoner C deduces his own hair color. He deduces that he and prisoner B must be wearing different colored hats. And since prisoner B was wearing a white hat, he guessed he is wearing a black hat. Yikes! This fried my hat off. Betty was in her last year of high school and she decided to take photography as an extracurricular activity. For her latest assignment, she needed to take an urban picture and present it to the class. However, since Betty was also organizing a big graduation trip, she didn't have time to do the assignment. Instead, she decided to Photoshop an image and show it in class. The teacher and students immediately saw that the picture wasn't real. How could they tell? Well, because that person over there has 2 heads. It looks pretty cool, but that's kind of a difficult phenomenon to find here on this planet. Three people decided to spend their vacations in Antarctica. Bianca had some trouble with the harsh weather, but felt it was worth it in the end. Pablo had a great time photographing the penguins for his social media page. And Helena got to do some fishing while she was there. On the last day of their trip, passing through airport security, one of them got caught trying to take a penguin with them in their backpack. Take a look at the picture. Can you tell who it was? Let's see what we have here. Well, is that a penguin's feet poking out of Helena's backpack? It sure is. Guess she did more than just fishing during her vacation. Yikes! Fifth of December is Bloomfield Town's Contest Day. For this year, the mayor picked bakery as the theme, so contestants needed to bake the best dessert to win. The only rule was that the bakers couldn't use sugar in their recipes, only natural sweeteners. When the mayor went to judge the 4 finalists and pick the best dessert, he immediately disqualified one of the bakers, saying they had cheated. And he did that without even tasting the desserts. Take a look at the contestants and see if you can spot the cheater. look at the third woman in the row. Her cake is literally covered in powdered sugar. She was disqualified because she broke the no sugar rule. Neil was one of the best watchmakers in town. He got a call from the police station one day, asking him for help to solve a crime. 2 burglars were caught robbing shops in town. Amongst the things they stole, there were 2 watches. One of the burglars claimed that the watch they stole was a fake, so the police contacted Neil to see if that was really true. Take a look at both watches. Can you help Neil figure out which one is fake and which one is real? The watch on the left is a fake. If you look closely, you'll see that the miniature arm is too long, so it can't pass around the entire clock when it moves. Maya was an undercover police officer. On a Saturday night, she was off duty and decided to go to the movies. When she arrived, she saw 2 women who looked pretty suspicious. She remembered that the police were tracking down a girl who had escaped from prison the week before. Take a look at both women. Can you tell if one has escaped prison recently? It's the lady on the left. Her prison uniform is peeking through her coat. I mean, she should have at least changed clothes by now, right? Beth arrived at school and one of her best friends showed her a picture. She told Beth that if she got the answer correctly, she would get a week's supply of free chocolate. The friend said that one of the people in the picture wasn't human. Can you help Beth figure out the answer? It's the boy in the middle. He doesn't have a shadow, which means he's definitely not human. Ruby was traveling around India when she decided to stop for some tea. As soon as she walked inside the tea shop, the owner placed 2 teapots in front of her. He told her she would get a free cup of tea if she could figure out his riddle. He told her that the first teapot contained enough tea for 40 cups and asked to figure out, just by looking at the pot, how many cups of tea it could carry inside. Take a look at the image. Can you help Ruby figure out the answer? This is a tricky one. Probably the second teapot can only carry around 20 cups of tea. If you look closely, you'll see that the outlets of the first teapot is located in the middle of the pot. But the outlet of the second pot is located right at the bottom, so even if the pot is taller, it can't hold more water than the first one. After water hits the level of the outlet, it'll just start overflowing. Mary was walking in an enchanted forest when she met Randy, a magical unicorn. Mary asked the unicorn for some information, but he refused to talk to her unless she solved one of his riddles. He was a trickster and liked confusing people with his riddles. He told Mary that in a nearby field there were tigers and sheep. Usually one tiger could catch 3 sheep in 3 minutes. So he asked her how long it would take for 100 tigers to catch 100 sheep. Can you help Mary figure out the answer? It would still take 3 minutes, because each tiger is still catching 1 sheep in 3 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's 3 tigers or 100. The unicorn was surprised by Mary's abilities and gave her another riddle to solve. He asked her to name the 5 days of the week without saying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. She also couldn't say whether it was the first day of the week or the last. What do you think Mary answered here? She said the day before yesterday, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. Clever girl, huh? Brianna was traveling on business, and her company put her in one of the best hotels in town. She arrived from work late at night, exhausted. She was getting ready to go to bed when she heard a knock on the door. When she looked through the peephole, she saw a man standing outside. The man said he was sorry for bothering her, but the hotel database had crashed and he needed to recheck some of her information. Brianna said she would be back in a moment, got away from the door, and called security. She said there was someone in the hotel trying to rob her. Take a look at the image. How did she know the man was a robber? Look at the man's name tag. It's a female name. He is surely not the real hotel manager. Luca decided to throw a party for his best friends. He invited over 20 people to the party, but he only bought 9 candies. He told his friends he would leave the candies inside a pretty little box, and they could each get 1 candy. 9 people took 9 candies, but 1 candy was still in the box. How could that be possible? It's pretty simple. The last person took the candy and the box. This way, 1 candy remained in the box. Noah reported to the police that someone had stolen his red motorbike the previous night, right out of his garage. The police started to search for it and tracked 3 main suspects. Take a look at them. Which one stole Noah's motorbike? It's this guy on the right. Look closely. His motorbike is painted, but the paint is dripping and one can spot the old red color. He must have stolen it and painted it in a different color so as not to attract any attention. But you caught him. It's the finale of the Big Money Buzz Show, and Natalie is faced with a difficult task. There are 3 fish bowls, each one of them containing a different amount of gold bars inside. If she manages to put her hand inside one of the bowls and take it out, she can keep the gold bar. The first bowl has scalding hot water inside of it. The second is filled with flesh-burning acid. And the last bowl has a couple of venomous scorpions walking around. Which bowl should she choose? Natalie should just wait until the water cools down and grab the gold bar from the first bowl. Smart, huh? Bobby was blindfolded and put into a shaky van. When he woke up, he was alone in a dark, empty room. There was nobody there, but there were 3 envelopes on the floor. A post-it on top of the envelope said, "Each envelope contains a red capsule and 2 statements. In one of these envelopes, both statements are false. In another envelope, both statements are true. You have to choose the correct capsule to get out of this alive." He opened the first envelope, saw a capsule and the message, 1. Don't eat this candy. 2. Take the candy from the second envelope. On the second envelope, the note said, 1. Don't take the candy from the first envelope. 2. Take the candy from the third envelope. And the last envelope said, 1. Don't eat this candy. 2. Take the candy from the first envelope. Which capsule should Bobby take? He should trust the candy from the third envelope. Let's see why. The first message of the first envelope is true, while the second is false. Both messages from the second envelope are true. This leaves us with 2 false statements on the third envelope. The manager of a gift shop got a call from the police station. The police told him there was a burglar on the loose. He dressed up as the Joker and was robbing local shops. But since it was Halloween, a lot of people were walking dressed up as the Joker. At that moment, 4 Jokers entered the shop. The manager got suspicious, so he made the people stand in a line while he examined which one of them was the criminal. Take a look at the image. Can you guess which Joker is the real thief? The thief is the second joker on the left. Take a look at his shoes. They're much bigger than the other shoes. He must be hiding something inside of it. Bobby was invited to take part in a famous game show. If she got all the answers correctly, she would win the prize of $1 million. For the first round, she needed to match the bird in the image with its correct shadow. Can you help her out? Yep, it's the fifth shadow. That's the correct one. For the second round, she needed to solve this rebus puzzle. Take a look at the image. Can you help Bobby figure out the next two letters? The answer was staring her right in the face, quite literally. The next two letters were A and W, which are the initial letters of the word and plus the word why. Next up, the game show host projected this image right in front of her. He asked her if she could find the hidden number in the image. Can you guess which number Bobby answered? Number 2. It was hidden right there in the middle. Since Bobby was getting everything right, the game show presenter decided to make the riddles more difficult. He asked her how many circles were in this image. Can you help her out here? This one was a little trickier, but there are 6 circles. Bobby was getting closer to the final round, so the host decided to make her life a bit more difficult. He picked a riddle that 90% of the people failed to know the answer to. Take a look at this image. The host asked Bobby to cut the main object in the image into 4 equal parts. How could Bobby do that? There it is. You just divide the big shape into smaller versions of itself. To win the final prize, the host came up with a riddle on the spot. He asked Bobby, "On my way to Berlin, I saw a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks. Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 2 kittens. How many were going to Berlin?" Can you help Bobby figure out the answer to this riddle? Well, only one person was going to Berlin, the person who saw the whole thing. Way to go, Bobby. You just won $1 million. Dan opened a time portal and set free a group of mutant ants inside his lab. The 4 humans left in the lab needed to escape before the ants caught up. To do so, they needed to cross an old rope bridge hanging on top of a massive gorge. By Dan's calculations, the ants would catch up with the lab team in 17 minutes. They needed to get everyone across the bridge before that. Dan was the fastest one in the group. He could cross the bridge in 1 minute. The lab assistant, Becky, could cross it in 2, but the janitor and the professor were slower. The first needed 5 minutes and the second needed 10. How could they arrive at the other side safely, knowing that the bridge could only hold 2 people at a time and each group needed to carry the sole lantern left to illuminate the way? Here's how it works. Dan and Becky cross first, carrying the lantern. After 2 minutes, both of them are across the bridge and Dan, the quickest, runs back with the lantern. Then the professor and the janitor cross together, taking them 10 minutes. In total, 13 minutes have elapsed. Becky grabs the lantern from them and dashes across the bridge to help Dan get across. With 2 minutes left on the clock, Dan and Becky arrive safely on the other side, just in time to cut the rope and save their lives. Alice had an epic fight with her best friend, Jen. They were supposed to go hiking together, but after the fight, Alice decided to go alone. After a long walk, she found a place to settle down for the night. She made all the provisions to have a safe camping night, but the next morning when she woke up, she saw that her food bag was empty. Someone had stolen all the food inside and only left the bag. Take a look at the image. Can you find out who the culprit was? Well, although there were animal footprints on the floor, none of these animals were big or tall enough to reach Alice's bag hanging on the tree. But hey, what's that? It looks like Jen's hairband. She must have followed Alice and decided to prank her by stealing her food. Peter got tired of big city life and moved to a quiet village. He opened a small coffee shop and his place soon got popular. His coffee shop was the talk of the town. Farmers, hipsters, and travelers came all over the region to drink his famous cappuccino. He even won an award for best coffee shop in the area. Until one night, someone broke into the coffee shop and stole his yearly supply of milk and coffee. Peter decided to investigate on his own and interrogated 4 suspects. Dylan, a painter, said he'd been out of the city that night. Leah, who worked at the coffee shop, said she had been working on a personal project all night long. Vanessa said she'd been rehearsing a dance for the upcoming New Year's presentation. And Jason, a farmer, said he'd been taking care of his cattle. Take a look at the suspects. Can you figure out who's the culprit? They sure didn't have the best alibis, but the culprit is definitely Vanessa. She said she was rehearsing for a New Year's show. But take a look at these flowers. It's clearly spring. For a school challenge, 100 students received a number between 1 and 100. Each student was instructed to go inside a classroom that had exactly 100 boxes, randomly numbered between 1 and 100. Inside each box there was a slip of paper, also containing a random number between 1 and 100. Now, each student needed to enter the classroom on their own and find the box that contained the slip of paper with the student's number on it. But to do so, the student was only allowed to open a maximum of 50 boxes. They were instructed to leave the room exactly as they found it, and they weren't allowed to communicate with any other students once they'd left the room. If all the students were able to find their numbers in the slips of papers inside the boxes, they would each win $100. But if even one of them wasn't able to find their number, then none of them would win the prize. Can you figure out what's the best strategy for all of the students to find their numbers and win the prize? This riddle sure isn't obvious, but let's check out how it could work. If each student searched for their numbers randomly, they would each have a 50% chance of finding the box with their number inside. This is so because there were 100 boxes and they were allowed to look inside 50 of them. However, the probability of all of them finding their own number following this random strategy is absurdly small. So, to increase their chances of collectively finding their numbers, they would need a better strategy. The students could use something called the loop strategy. Once entering the classroom, they should go directly towards the box that had their number on top of it. The number inside probably wouldn't be their number, but that's okay. They should check the number inside the box and go look for the box with that same number on top of it, and so on and so forth. They should keep doing this until they find the slip with their number on it. This strategy means that 31% of the time, all students would be able to find their number and win the prize. It's not a huge probability, but hey, at least they'll have fun trying to figure all of this out.